The constellation Piscis Astrinus, globular cluster M2, and the Saturn Nebula are visible in the next few days. We'll help you find them in this week's Astronomy Magazine podcast. Hello, I'm Astronomy Magazine Senior Editor Michael Bakich. Each week, I highlight 3 different night sky targets for you to see. One object you can find without optical aid, one object to find with a small telescope, and one deep sky object to find with an 8-inch or larger telescope for you avid astronomers. As its name might lead you to think, the constellation Piscis Astrinus represents the southern fish. This refers to its position relative to another watery constellation, Pisces, which lies a bit to the north. Piscis Astrinus would be a standard, middle-of-the-road constellation, except for one thing: Fomalhaut, the constellation's alpha star and the sky's 18th brightest star. This luminary shines at magnitude 1.16, but it dominates its part of the sky because there are no nearby bright stars. The nearest reasonably bright star, Alnair, the alpha star of Grus, sits some 20 degrees to the south-southwest and shines at magnitude 1.7. Unfortunately, Piscis Astrinus contains no more of the 200 brightest stars, and none of its other stars have names. Also, the constellation can boast of no meteor shower or Messier object. You can find Piscis Astrinus most easily by using the Great Square of Pegasus. The square's 2 westernmost stars, Markab, that's Alpha Pegasi, and Shiat, that's Beta Pegasi, point southward to Fomalhaut. Now, that being said, it's a long haul. Fomalhaut lies 45 degrees, 1/8 of the way across the sky, south of Markab. After you find Fomalhaut, use a star chart to locate the rest of the figure, which lies to the west of that bright star. A small telescope will reveal the beautiful globular cluster M2 in the northern part of Aquarius. This deep sky object is a real showpiece, even though it doesn't have a common name. M2 shines at magnitude 6.6, making it the 18th brightest globular cluster. To find M2, scan roughly 4.5 degrees due north of Beta Aquarii. If you have sharp eyes, you might spot the cluster without optical aid from a dark site. Through your telescope, you'll notice that M2 appears slightly elliptical. It's one of the sky's richest and most compact globular clusters. This week's deep sky object is the Saturn Nebula, also known as NGC 7009. This planetary nebula's common name arises from the thin extensions on either end of its disk. These extensions resemble Saturn's rings and represent material ejected from the nebula in 2 directions. Astronomers call objects like NGC 7009 bipolar planetaries. The Saturn Nebula lies slightly more than 1 degree west of the magnitude 4.5 star New Aquarii. Through an 8-inch or larger telescope, view NGC 7009 with magnifications above 200. Its oval disk measures 25 arcseconds in its long dimension. The extensions each protrude another 15 arcseconds. At the end of the extensions are fainter bulbs, but you'll need at least a 12-inch scope to pick them up. Finally, what color is the Saturn Nebula to you? Whether you see it as mostly blue or mostly green depends on your color perception. And just so you know, there's no right answer. And that's this week's Night Sky Highlights. If you're just getting into astronomy, be sure to visit www.astronomy.com/intro for information on constellations, planets, and more. And remember, in every issue of Astronomy Magazine, you'll find The Sky This Month, a section that features a calendar of sky events, an all-sky map, and tips for viewing the month's night sky attractions. For the transcript of this podcast, visit astronomy.com/blogs. Thanks for listening, and be sure to tune in next week for 3 more night sky targets.